Mall security harasses Muslim woman, then finds out her husband owns the building. How will this story escalate? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The mall was bustling with activity that sunny afternoon. Families strolled leisurely through the wide corridors, children's laughter echoing near the play area, and the enticing scent of freshly baked pretzels wafted from a nearby kiosk. Sarah adjusted her hijab as she stepped through the glass entrance, a serene smile gracing her lips. She loved coming to this mall, not just because of its stylish design but because it held a special place in her heart. Her husband, Adam, had worked tirelessly to turn this space into a thriving shopping hub for the community. Today, Sarah was on a mission to find the perfect gift for her niece's upcoming birthday. She had a mental list of stores to visit and was excited to browse through their collections. As she walked, she admired the sleek interior of the mall, the polished floors gleaming under the skylights, the tasteful decor, and the vibrant energy of the shoppers around her. Yet, even in this familiar and comfortable setting, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She glanced over her shoulder and noticed a security guard standing near a potted plant. He wasn't exactly staring at her, but his eyes seemed to follow her movements. Sarah brushed it off, chalking it up to her imagination, and continued toward the first store on her list. Inside the boutique, Sarah browsed through racks of elegant scarves and handbags. She ran her fingers over the soft fabrics, trying to decide which one her niece would love most. The shopkeeper greeted her warmly, offering assistance, but Sarah declined with a polite smile. She enjoyed taking her time, savoring the process of finding the perfect item. After a few minutes, Sarah left the store empty-handed, deciding to check out another boutique before making a final decision. As she stepped back into the corridor, she noticed the security guard again. This time he was closer, standing just a few feet away. His posture was rigid, his gaze sharp, and there was no mistaking it. He was watching her. Derek, the mall's newest security guard, prided himself on being vigilant. But his vigilance often veered into suspicion, especially when it came to people he deemed out of place. As soon as he had spotted Sarah entering the mall, he had decided she needed to be monitored. Her hijab and confident demeanor somehow struck him as suspicious, though he couldn't articulate why. "She's definitely up to something," Derek muttered under his breath as he followed Sarah at a discreet distance. When she left the boutique without making a purchase, his suspicion deepened. To him, it was a classic sign of someone casing stores for theft. Derek decided it was time to act. He adjusted his badge, squared his shoulders, and approached Sarah as she lingered near a display of scented candles. "Excuse me, ma'am," Derek said, his tone firm but polite enough to mask his true intentions. "Can I have a word with you?" Sarah turned to face him, her brow furrowing slightly in confusion. "Yes? Is there a problem?" Derek folded his arms, his expression stern. "I noticed you've been walking around the mall and leaving stores without making any purchases. Do you mind telling me what you're doing here?" Sarah blinked, taken aback by the accusation hidden within his words. "I'm shopping," she said simply. "Is that a problem?" Derek's lips pressed into a thin line. "We've had some issues with suspicious activity lately. Just doing my job to make sure everything's in order." Sarah's initial confusion quickly turned to indignation. She had done nothing wrong, yet here she was, being singled out and treated like a suspect. "Suspicious activity?" she repeated, her voice calm but firm. "I've been browsing stores like any other shopper. Why are you questioning me?" Derek shifted uncomfortably, but his resolve didn't waver. "It's standard procedure to check in with customers who seem out of place." "Out of place?" Sarah's voice rose slightly, drawing the attention of a few passers-by. "I'm not out of place. I'm a paying customer, just like everyone else here." The tension in the air was palpable as Derek glanced around, realizing that a small crowd was beginning to form. Some shoppers paused to watch the exchange, their expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. Sarah, meanwhile, stood her ground, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Derek's growing defensiveness. "I'm going to need to see your bag," Derek said, taking a step closer. Sarah's jaw tightened. "You have no right to search my bag. I've done nothing wrong and I won't tolerate this treatment." Derek's patience was wearing thin. He reached out, his hand brushing against Sarah's arm as he tried to assert his authority. "Ma'am, I'm just trying to do my job. If you cooperate, this will be over quickly." Sarah pulled her arm away, her voice steady but resolute. "Don't touch me. And if you're so concerned, maybe you should call the mall manager. Let's see what they have to say." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Derek hesitated, realizing the situation was spiraling out of his control. Before he could respond, Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She dialed a number with practiced ease, her expression calm but determined. "Adam," she said when the call connected. "I'm at the mall, and there's a situation I need you to handle." Derek frowned, his confidence faltering. "Who are you calling?" Sarah ignored him, her focus on the conversation with her husband. "Yes, I'm fine," she said. "But one of your security guards seems to think I don't belong here. Can you come down?" The words hung in the air, and Derek's eyes widened as he processed what she had said. "Wait, your security guards? What does that mean?" Sarah ended the call and looked directly at Derek, her gaze unwavering. "You'll find out soon enough." Within minutes, a tall, impeccably dressed man strode into the scene, his presence commanding immediate attention. Adam, Sarah's husband and the owner of the mall, had arrived. His sharp suit and confident demeanor left no doubt about his authority, and the crowd parted to let him through. "Sarah," Adam said, his voice filled with concern as he approached his wife. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Sarah replied. "But I think you should talk to your employee here." Adam turned his attention to Derek, his expression hardening. "What's going on here?" Derek stammered, suddenly aware of how badly he had miscalculated. I thought she was acting suspicious. I was just following protocol." "Protocol?" Adam's voice was cold and sharp. "Your protocol involves harassing a paying customer and laying hands on her?" "I didn't mean," Derek began, but Adam cut him off. "Save it," Adam said. "Do you even know who she is?" "That's my wife. And you've just made the biggest mistake of your career." Derek's face turned pale as Adam's words sank in. The gravity of his mistake weighed heavily on him, and the murmurs of the gathered crowd only made his humiliation more apparent. I didn't know," Derek stuttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "If I had known, I wouldn't have." Adam raised a hand to silence him, his piercing gaze cutting through the guard's feeble excuses. "That's exactly the problem, Derek," Adam said sharply. "You shouldn't need to know someone's connections or status to treat them with respect. Everyone who walks through these doors deserves to feel welcome and safe, regardless of who they are." The crowd murmured in agreement, their initial curiosity now replaced with a sense of satisfaction as Adam's words exposed Derek's blatant prejudice. Sarah stood beside her husband, her calm composure unshaken, though her eyes reflected the hurt and frustration she had felt during the ordeal. "You targeted my wife because of her appearance," Adam continued, his tone measured but firm. "You made assumptions about her intentions based on nothing but your own biases. That's not just unacceptable, it's disgraceful." Derek opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He glanced around, hoping for an ally, but the crowd's disapproving stares made it clear he would find no support there. He looked back at Adam, his shoulders slumping under the weight of his shame. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. Adam narrowed his eyes. "Sorry isn't enough. You've humiliated my wife in front of all these people, and you've damaged the reputation of this mall. I hold my employees to a higher standard than this, and your actions have fallen far short." Adam turned to the mall manager, who had arrived moments earlier and was standing awkwardly at the edge of the scene. "I want this dealt with immediately," Adam said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Derek is to be suspended pending an investigation. And I expect a full report on this incident on my desk by tomorrow morning." The manager nodded hastily, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Of course, sir. I'll handle it right away." Derek's head hung low as the manager led him away, the weight of his actions evident in his slumped posture. The crowd slowly began to disperse, their curiosity satisfied, though many lingered to offer Sarah words of support and encouragement. "You didn't deserve that," one woman said, placing a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "I'm so sorry you had to go through it." Sarah smiled warmly, her gratitude evident. "Thank you. Your support means a lot." As the crowd thinned, Adam turned to Sarah, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "I'm fine," Sarah replied, her tone steady. "It wasn't the first time I've dealt with something like this, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But I'm glad you were here to back me up." Adam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It shouldn't have happened at all. I'll make sure this never happens again, not to you, not to anyone." Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "I know you will. And I'm proud of how you handled it." Later that evening, Adam called an emergency meeting with the mall's management team. Sitting at the head of the conference table, he addressed the group with unwavering authority. "Today's incident was unacceptable. Adam began, his voice firm but calm. It's clear that we need to take a hard look at our policies and ensure that this kind of behavior is rooted out entirely. Starting immediately, all security personnel and staff will undergo mandatory sensitivity and diversity training. I want every employee to understand that prejudice and discrimination have no place in this mall. The team nodded in agreement, taking notes as Adam continued. We'll also be implementing a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. Any employee found targeting customers or colleagues based on race, religion, gender, or any other factor will face immediate consequences. This isn't just about protecting our customers. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels respected and valued. As the meeting wrapped up, Adam's determination to enact meaningful change was evident. He knew that implementing these measures wouldn't erase what had happened, but it was a step toward ensuring that the mall lived up to its mission of being a welcoming space for all. The following day, Adam and Sarah returned to the mall, this time as a united front. They met with the mall staff to discuss the new policies and to share the importance of creating an inclusive environment. Sarah spoke candidly about her experience, her voice calm but powerful as she recounted the incident. "This isn't just about me," Sarah said, her gaze sweeping across the room. "It's about everyone who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong. We have a responsibility to do better, not just for our customers but for each other." Her words resonated deeply with the staff, many of whom expressed their commitment to supporting the new initiatives. The atmosphere in the room shifted, a sense of unity and purpose taking root as they rallied around the shared goal of creating a more inclusive community. As the weeks passed, the changes began to take effect. The mall's employees attended workshops and training sessions designed to challenge their biases and foster empathy. New posters and signs were displayed throughout the mall, emphasizing its commitment to inclusivity and respect. Customers began to take notice, with many expressing their appreciation for the efforts being made. Sarah too noticed the difference. On her next visit to the mall, she was greeted with warm smiles and genuine courtesy from the staff. Though the memory of the incident still lingered, she felt a renewed sense of hope and pride in the progress that had been made. One day, as Sarah strolled through the mall with Adam, they passed by a group of teenagers laughing and chatting near the fountain. One of them turned to Sarah and said, "Thank you for standing up for yourself. You've inspired a lot of us." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," she replied. "But it's all of us standing together that makes the difference." The incident and its aftermath sparked conversations beyond the mall's walls, with local media covering the story and highlighting the steps Adam and Sarah had taken to address the issue. Community leaders praised their efforts, and the mall became a symbol of positive change and accountability. For Sarah, the experience was a reminder of the power of resilience and the importance of advocating for what's right. Though the path to change was often challenging, she knew that every step forward was worth it. In the days following the mall's implementation of its new policies, Sarah felt a renewed sense of optimism. The response from the community had been overwhelmingly positive. Many locals praised Adam's swift actions and the steps the mall was taking to ensure it became a welcoming space for everyone. Sarah herself began receiving messages from strangers. Some shared their own experiences with prejudice, while others thanked her for standing her ground and inspiring them to do the same. Among these messages was one that particularly caught Sarah's attention. It was from a young Muslim woman named Amina, who had seen the story online. "Your courage gave me hope," Amina wrote. "I've been afraid to wear my hijab in public because of how people stare and treat me, but seeing how you handled that situation reminded me that I have the right to exist as I am. Thank you for showing me that strength." Sarah's heart swelled as she read the message. She replied to Amina, offering words of encouragement and inviting her to connect further. For Sarah, these moments of connection reminded her why it was so important to speak out. It wasn't just about her, it was about creating a ripple effect that could empower others to stand tall in the face of discrimination. Meanwhile, Adam worked tirelessly to ensure the mall's transformation was both genuine and lasting. He held weekly meetings with the management team, reviewing feedback from customers and employees alike. He personally oversaw the sensitivity training sessions, even sitting in on a few to better understand the perspectives of his staff. During one such session, Adam noticed a familiar face in the back of the room, Derek. The guard who had harassed Sarah had been placed on suspension, but he had expressed a desire to attend the training sessions as part of his attempt to make amends. Adam had allowed it, though he remained skeptical of Derek's intentions. As the session ended, Derek approached Adam, his expression earnest. "Mr. Khan," he began, his voice quieter than Adam had ever heard it. "I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be here. I know I messed up badly, and I want to do better. I've realized how much my actions hurt not just Mrs. Khan but everyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong. Adam studied Derek for a moment, his expression unreadable. It's good that you're taking accountability, he said finally. But words alone won't fix this. It's your actions moving forward that will determine whether you've truly changed. I understand, Derek said, nodding. I won't let you down. Sarah, too, found herself reflecting on Derek's presence at the training sessions. Though she still carried the pain of his actions, she couldn't deny that his willingness to learn was a step in the right direction. She shared her thoughts with Adam one evening as they sat on the couch, sipping tea and unwinding from the day. Do you think people like Derek can really change? Sarah asked, her voice thoughtful. Adam set his cup down, leaning back against the cushions. I think they can, but it takes effort. Real change isn't easy. It requires humility, reflection, and a genuine commitment to doing better. Sarah nodded slowly, her gaze distant. I hope he's sincere. Not just for his sake, but for everyone who comes after him. As time went on, the mall's efforts to promote inclusivity began to yield tangible results. Foot traffic increased as more people felt safe and welcomed in the space. Local community groups started hosting events at the mall, using its central location to bring people together. Adam and Sarah often attended these events, mingling with attendees and listening to their stories. One such event was a cultural festival organized by a local nonprofit. The mall's wide corridors were transformed into a vibrant celebration of diversity, with booths showcasing art, food, and traditions from around the world. Sarah wandered through the festival with Adam, marveling at the colorful displays and the sense of unity that filled the air. At one booth, a young girl was painting henna designs on her mother's hand. She looked up and saw Sarah, her eyes lighting up with recognition. You're the lady from the story, the girl exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. Sarah smiled, kneeling to the girl's level. That's me, she said gently. Do you like the festival? The girl nodded eagerly. It's so cool. I love seeing all the different things people do. My mom said it's good to learn about other people's cultures. She's absolutely right, Sarah said, glancing at the girl's mother, who smiled warmly. Learning about each other makes us stronger. As Sarah and Adam continued through the festival, they noticed Derek standing near one of the booths. He was out of uniform, his posture more relaxed than they had ever seen. He appeared to be helping an elderly couple navigate the event, offering them directions with a polite smile. When Derek spotted Sarah and Adam, he hesitated for a moment before approaching them. Mrs. Khan, Mr. Khan, he said, his voice steady but humble. I didn't expect to see you here. We wouldn't miss it, Sarah replied, her tone neutral. It's a wonderful event. Derek nodded, glancing down briefly before meeting Sarah's gaze. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I wanted to thank you. Attending those training sessions opened my eyes to a lot of things I hadn't considered before. I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm trying to be better. Sarah regarded him carefully, searching for any sign of insincerity. What she saw instead was a man who seemed genuinely remorseful, a man who was trying to grow. It's not an easy journey, she said finally. But if you're truly committed to change, I hope you stick with it. I will, Derek said earnestly. Thank you for giving me a chance to prove myself. The festival concluded with a heartfelt speech from Adam, who took the stage to thank the community for their support and to emphasize the importance of standing together against prejudice. This mall was built to be more than just a place to shop, he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. It was built to be a space where people from all walks of life could come together, connect, and thrive. Let's continue to make it a place we can all be proud of. The crowd erupted into applause, and Sarah felt a swell of pride as she stood beside her husband. Despite the challenges they had faced, they had turned a moment of adversity into an opportunity for growth and connection. Months later, the mall was thriving more than ever. Its reputation as a welcoming and inclusive space had attracted visitors from across the region, and Sarah often found herself approached by strangers who shared how much the changes had meant to them. One day, as Sarah sat in her favorite cafe near the mall's central fountain, she reflected on how far they had come. The memory of the incident with Derek still lingered, but it no longer felt like a wound. It felt like a turning point, a reminder of the power of resilience and advocacy. As she sipped her tea, a young woman approached her table, clutching a small notebook. Excuse me, the woman said, her voice hesitant. Are you Mrs. Khan? Sarah looked up and smiled. I am. How can I help you? I just wanted to say thank you, the woman said, her cheeks flushing slightly. Your story inspired me to speak up at my workplace when I saw someone being treated unfairly. It wasn't easy, but it made a difference. I thought you should know. Sarah's smile widened, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you for telling me, she said. And thank you for standing up for what's right. It takes courage, but it's always worth it. As the woman walked away, Sarah glanced around the bustling mall, the sound of laughter and conversation filling the air. She knew the journey wasn't over, there was always more work to be done. But in that moment she felt hopeful for the future. Together they were building a community rooted in respect, compassion, and strength. Weeks passed, and the impact of the incident at the mall continued to ripple through the community. News outlets had picked up the story, framing it as a tale of resilience and accountability. Many praised the steps Adam and Sarah had taken to transform the mall into a beacon of inclusivity, and others applauded Sarah for her courage in standing up to prejudice. It wasn't just a story anymore, it had become a movement. One day, Sarah was invited to speak at a local community center as part of a panel discussion on combating discrimination. The room was packed with attendees, from young students to elderly residents, all eager to hear her story. As Sarah took the stage, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. She had always been more comfortable behind the scenes, but this was a moment she couldn't shy away from. Thank you all for being here, Sarah began, her voice steady but warm. When I walked into that mall a few months ago, I didn't expect my day to take such a dramatic turn. But looking back, I realized that moment was about more than just me. It was about all of us. The times we've been judged unfairly, the times we felt like we didn't belong, and the ways we can come together to create change. The audience listened intently as Sarah recounted the events of that day, weaving in her reflections on resilience and the importance of standing up for oneself. She shared stories of the people who had reached out to her since the incident. People like Amina, who had found inspiration in Sarah's courage. But this isn't just about me speaking up, Sarah continued. It's about creating spaces where no one has to speak up because they already feel accepted and valued. That's the goal we should all be working toward. The room erupted into applause, and Sarah felt a wave of pride and humility wash over her. After the panel concluded, she stayed to chat with attendees, answering their questions and listening to their own experiences. It was clear that her story had struck a chord, and Sarah felt more determined than ever to keep advocating for change. Meanwhile, Adam continued to focus on the mall's transformation. Under his leadership, the mall had become a hub for community events, from cultural festivals to charity drives. The new sensitivity training program was yielding positive results, with employees reporting a noticeable shift in the workplace culture. Even Derek, who had initially been suspended, was now working hard to prove his growth. One afternoon, Adam received an unexpected email from Derek. The subject line simply read, "Thank you." Curious, Adam opened it and found a heartfelt message inside. "Mr. Khan, I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for the second chance you gave me. Attending the training sessions and reflecting on my actions has been a humbling experience, but it's also been one of the most important journeys of my life. I've realized how much harm prejudice can cause, and I'm committed to being a better person moving forward. I've started volunteering at a local community center, working with youth to promote inclusivity and understanding. It's my way of giving back and trying to make amends for the mistakes I've made. I hope to continue earning your trust and the trust of this community. Thank you again for believing in the possibility of change. Sincerely, Derek." Adam read the email twice, his initial skepticism giving way to a sense of cautious optimism. He had been unsure if Derek's remorse was genuine, but this message, and the actions it described, seemed to indicate real growth. When Adam shared the email with Sarah that evening, she nodded thoughtfully. "It sounds like he's really trying," she said. "I hope he keeps it up." "So do I," Adam replied. "People deserve a chance to grow, but it's up to them to make the most of it." One weekend, Sarah and Adam attended another cultural festival at the mall. This one was organized by a group of young activists who had been inspired by Sarah's story. The event featured art installations, spoken word performances, and panel discussions, all centered around the theme of unity and acceptance. As Sarah wandered through the event, she came across a booth displaying paintings by local artists. One piece in particular caught her eye, a vibrant portrait of a woman in a hijab, her expression radiating strength and resilience. The artist, a young woman named Layla, approached Sarah with a shy smile. "Do you like it?" Layla asked, gesturing to the painting. "I love it," Sarah replied, her voice filled with admiration. "It's powerful and beautiful." Layla hesitated, then added, "It was inspired by you. After I heard your story, I wanted to create something that captured the strength it takes to stand up against prejudice." Sarah felt a lump rise in her throat as she looked at the painting again. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means so much to me." The two women chatted for a while, sharing their experiences and reflections on the importance of art as a tool for change. By the time Sarah left the booth, she felt more inspired than ever to continue her advocacy. The event concluded with a performance by a local spoken word poet, who delivered a moving piece about identity, resilience, and the power of community. As the poet's words echoed through the mall, Sarah glanced around at the diverse crowd, their faces alight with emotion. It was a scene that filled her with hope, a reminder that, despite the challenges, progress was always possible. After the performance, Adam took the stage to thank everyone for their participation and to emphasize the importance of continuing the conversation. "This mall belongs to all of us," he said, his voice firm but warm. "And it's up to all of us to ensure it remains a place where everyone feels safe, valued, and respected." The audience erupted into applause, and Sarah felt a surge of pride as she watched her husband speak. Together, they had turned a moment of adversity into an opportunity for growth and connection, and the results were evident all around them. As the evening wound down, Sarah and Adam took a moment to reflect on everything they had accomplished. Sitting on a bench near the fountain, they watched as families strolled by, children laughed, and friends chatted over coffee. The mall was alive with energy and joy, a far cry from the tense atmosphere that had once defined it. "We've come a long way," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude. "We have," Adam agreed. "But there's always more work to do." Sarah smiled, leaning against his shoulder. "And we'll keep doing it, together?" Adam nodded, his expression resolute. "Together." The months that followed solidified the mall's transformation into a beacon of inclusivity and community spirit. Adam and Sarah remained at the forefront, their leadership inspiring others to follow their example. The changes they implemented didn't just address the surface issues. They struck at the root of systemic problems, setting a new standard for what a safe and welcoming public space should look like. Sarah became increasingly involved in outreach programs, partnering with local organizations to hold workshops and events at the mall. One of her favorite initiatives was a series of storytelling sessions, where people from diverse backgrounds could share their personal experiences. These sessions quickly became a hit, drawing attendees of all ages and fostering a sense of connection that transcended differences. At one such session, a young boy named Yusuf stood nervously at the microphone, clutching a piece of paper filled with his hastily written thoughts. He was only 10 years old, but his story carried the weight of someone far older. "When I wear my kufi to school, some kids laugh at me," Yusuf said, his voice trembling. "They say it's weird and sometimes they don't let me play with them. It makes me feel like I don't belong." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Sarah, sitting in the front row, felt her heart ache for the boy. She knew all too well the pain of being excluded and judged for simply being yourself. "But then," Yusuf continued, his voice growing steadier, "I heard about this mall and what happened here. And I thought, if people like Mrs. Khan can stand up for themselves, maybe I can too." The audience erupted into applause, their cheers filling the room. Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she approached Yusuf, giving him a warm hug. "You are so brave," she told him. "Never forget that you belong no matter what anyone says." Stories like Yusuf's became the driving force behind Sarah's advocacy. Every person she met, every story she heard, reaffirmed her commitment to creating a world where no one had to feel like they didn't belong. She knew the journey was far from over, but she also knew that progress was possible. One step, one conversation, one act of courage at a time. Adam, too, found himself inspired by the stories they encountered. His role as the mall's owner had evolved from that of a businessman to a community leader, and he embraced the responsibility with open arms. He often met with employees, listening to their feedback and encouraging them to take ownership of the mall's mission. During one of these meetings, a janitor named Maria shared her perspective. "When I first started working here, I felt invisible," she said. "People would walk past me like I wasn't even there. But after everything that's happened, I've noticed a change. Customers smile at me now and my coworkers treat me like part of the team. It might seem small, but it means everything to me." Adam nodded, his chest tightening with emotion. "That's exactly why we're doing this," he said. "Every person here matters and we'll keep working to make sure everyone feels that." The mall's evolution didn't just impact the people who worked and shopped there. It also influenced other businesses and institutions in the area. Local leaders began reaching out to Adam and Sarah, asking for advice on how to implement similar changes in their own spaces. Schools, workplaces, and community centers started adopting the mall's inclusivity model, creating a ripple effect that spread far beyond its walls. One day, as Sarah walked through the mall, she noticed a familiar figure standing near the fountain. It was Derek, the former security guard who had once caused her so much pain. He wasn't in uniform this time. Instead, he was handing out flyers for a community event focused on bridging cultural divides. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then approached him. "Derek," she said, her voice calm but firm. He turned, visibly startled to see her. "Mrs. Khan," he said, his tone cautious. "I didn't expect to see you." "I've noticed the work you've been doing," Sarah said, gesturing to the flyers. "It seems like you're trying to make a difference." Derek nodded, his expression earnest. "I am. After everything that happened, I realized I needed to do more than just apologize. I needed to take action. I've been volunteering at community events, attending workshops, and doing everything I can to educate myself." Sarah studied him for a moment, searching for any hint of insincerity. What she saw instead was a man who seemed genuinely committed to growth. "I hope you keep it up," she said finally. "Change isn't easy, but it's worth it." Derek nodded again, his relief evident. "Thank you, Mrs. Khan. Your forgiveness means more than I can say." The mall's transformation culminated in a grand celebration held on the anniversary of the incident that had sparked it all. The event, titled Unity in Diversity, featured live performances, art exhibitions, and speeches from community leaders. Sarah was the guest of honor, and as she took the stage, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. "Today isn't just about celebrating how far we've come," she began, her voice steady but heartfelt. "It's about acknowledging the work that still lies ahead. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in isolation. It takes all of us standing together to create a world where everyone feels valued and respected." The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the mall. Adam joined Sarah on stage, taking her hand as they stood together, a symbol of the strength and unity they had worked so hard to foster. As the event wound down, Sarah and Adam took a moment to reflect on everything they had accomplished. Sitting on a bench near the fountain, they watched as families, friends, and strangers came together, their laughter and conversations filling the air. It was a scene of harmony, a testament to the power of resilience and community. "We've come a long way," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude. "And there's still more to do," Adam replied. "But I'm proud of what we've built, together." Sarah smiled, leaning against his shoulder. "Me too." The mall's story became a lasting legacy, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, change was always possible. For Sarah and Adam, it was more than just a victory, it was a promise to keep fighting for a better future, one step at a time. As the months rolled on, the mall's transformation continued to be a shining example of what a community could achieve when people came together. It was no longer just a place for shopping. It had become a hub for empowerment, learning, and connection. Adam and Sarah's efforts didn't just resonate within the mall. They became a model for change in the broader region. One day, as Sarah walked through the mall's corridors, she was approached by a reporter holding a microphone. "Mrs. Khan," the reporter began, "do you have a moment to talk about the impact of the changes you and Mr. Khan have made here?" Sarah hesitated. While she was used to speaking publicly now, she always felt a bit apprehensive about interviews. Still, she smiled politely and said, "Of course." The reporter asked her a series of thoughtful questions about the journey, the challenges they'd faced, and the unexpected outcomes of their efforts. Sarah answered candidly, sharing insights about the strength it took to stand up against discrimination and the importance of fostering empathy in every interaction. "What advice would you give to others who want to create change in their own communities?" the reporter asked, wrapping up the interview. Sarah thought for a moment before responding. "Start small," she said. "Change doesn't always happen through big, sweeping gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as a conversation, a kind word, or standing up for someone when they need support. And always remember that change isn't just about what you do, it's about how you inspire others to take action too." The reporter smiled, thanking Sarah for her time before moving on. As Sarah continued through the mall, she noticed several familiar faces: employees, regular shoppers, and even Derek, who now worked as a community liaison for the mall. Each one of them represented a thread in the tapestry of progress the mall had become. One afternoon, Sarah received a message from Amina, the young woman who had reached out months earlier. "I wanted to share some good news," Amina wrote. "I wore my hijab to a family gathering for the first time, and it felt amazing. Your story gave me the courage to embrace who I am, and I can't thank you enough." Sarah felt her heart swell with pride as she read Amina's words. Moments like these reminded her of the ripple effect that even one act of courage could create. She responded with heartfelt encouragement, letting Amina know just how proud she was of her. The anniversary of the mall's transformation was approaching, and Adam and Sarah decided to mark the occasion with a new initiative, the Voices of Unity Scholarship Program. The program would provide financial support to students from underrepresented backgrounds, helping them pursue their dreams and create a brighter future. The announcement was made at a special event in the mall's central plaza, attended by hundreds of community members. Adam stood at the podium, his voice steady and filled with emotion as he spoke about the vision behind the scholarship. "This isn't just about providing financial aid," Adam said. "It's about empowering the next generation to become leaders, advocates, and changemakers. We believe in the potential of every individual, and we're committed to supporting them as they strive to make a difference." When Sarah took the stage, she spoke directly to the young people in the audience. "You are the future," she said, her voice warm and encouraging. "Your voices, your ideas, and your courage have the power to change the world. Don't let anyone dim your light. Keep shining, and know that we're here to support you every step of the way." The event concluded with the unveiling of a mural created by local artists, featuring portraits of community members who had been instrumental in the mall's transformation. At the center of the mural was an image of Sarah, her expression radiating strength and resilience. The crowd erupted into applause as the mural was revealed, and Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. Later that evening, as Sarah and Adam walked through the now-empty mall, they reflected on everything they had accomplished. The lights cast a warm glow on the polished floors, and the sound of their footsteps echoed softly in the quiet space. "This place has become something truly special," Sarah said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's more than I ever imagined." Adam smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "That's because of you," he said. "Your strength, your vision, it's the heart of everything we've built here." Sarah leaned into him, her heart full. "We did it together," she said. "And we'll keep doing it." As they stood in the center of the mall, beneath the grand skylight that framed the night sky, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and often difficult, but it had been worth every step. Together, she and Adam had turned a moment of adversity into a legacy of hope, resilience, and unity, a legacy that would inspire generations to come.